This is what I would consider to be the base way for a Shanahan, McVay, McDaniel, LaFleur offense to get to Y cross. Now this is flipped from traditional air raid versions. Air raid typically is going to want to have the Y on the right. We'll just say the Z is still there, and F in the slot on the left. If we're looking at 2x2, we would get the Y cross, the Z on the dig backside, and then the running back in the backside flat. Now, originally, as far as I understand from the air raid offense, it was really only run with the Y cross coming from the right side, but this specific pro style twist includes a 6-man pass protection and what I consider to be the cross coming from the left side to the right. Now, one of the first things that we'll notice in comparison to the air raid here is that the Y is not actually on a cross. But before we get to him, we do have the Z on a go. This would be the first read in most air raid terms, but it is an alert in the Shanahan offense. And as we said, the Y is not actually on a cross here. This is a Tony route. It's essentially a hitch with the option to work outside. But if that Y does work outside, then we kind of get that fade out combination on the front side like we did from the original air raid. But this is the first read in the pro style version of this that Kyle Shanahan designed. Now, coming from the backside, the crosser, this is a through route. It's not exactly a mirror image of the crossing route. We'll actually look at some of those later on. But looking to kind of water this offense down for lower levels, this would be what I consider to be the Y cross or the high cross route coming from the F. So you can see the coaching points up top. If it's middle field close, they want the through route to break across that free safety's face, hopefully taking the free safety with him, opening up the dig backside. And if it's two safeties, we want to attack the near safety and basically run like a skinny post to pull his attention late, again, opening the dig backside. But essentially what that makes the through route here is kind of a middle of the progression clear out route. But at lower levels, again, I want to do more to get the F open here or whoever's running this crossing route. But the primary reason that I consider this to be really the base way to get to a Y cross type of play in this offense is because we have this through route in combination with the dig route backside. Now, the pro style offense does have a few different in-breaking routes that kind of classify under the dig category. This is a Dover route, so it starts a speed turn at 15 yards, rolls it at 20. It can also include a basic route that's more of a square in cut from 12 to 14 yards. But again, where I'm taking this inspiration from is we're getting a crossing route with a dig route coming behind it, which is very similar to Y cross. We're also going to get the halfback here from 2x2 in the backside flat. In this case, however, he's going to actually check in the protection instead of just swinging out backside. Now, let's talk about that protection. We've got 3 jet right here. That means that the running back is inserting on the left side of the line. The offensive line is actually going to slide to the right. In the pro style offense, they slide away from the call. 3 is the call, which is an odd number, so it's telling the line to slide right. Running back's going to check his open gap. And if there's nobody coming, he's going to get 3x3 outside the tackle as the outlet route. Now, a few things I don't like with this concept and protection marriage here. Number one, the line is sliding to the quarterback's read. So our number one receiver, whether you're reading it air raid style or pro style here, is on the right side. And the line sliding to the right means that if he's hot, it's going to be coming from the backside. So he's going to be a lot less likely to see this rusher because the rusher's coming opposite where the quarterback's going to be looking. Another issue with this design here is we'll see that the only hot answer is actually away from where this rusher is going to be coming. So in jet protection, the quarterback is always protected to the slide side, which here again is the right because it's 3 jet, line slides opposite. And the way that I like hot routes is that we should be replacing the rusher. So with throwing the Tony hot, he's not anywhere close to the window that this free runner is going to be vacating. So what I really like about the air raids version of the Y cross and even some run and shoot adaptations that I've seen is that whoever's running our crosser here, that's the F, they can actually snap it off early if they see an inside linebacker rushing and replace where he's coming from and be a hot route himself on that crossing route. Now, breaking down just this play call before we move on, we have Y Tony, F knife. This is our Tony concept, the go and the Tony route. So we can see we've got Y Tony. The Y is the one running the Tony. Outside of that, we have our go route. And then F knife is the actual crossing concept. So Tony is semi-irrelevant to the Y cross part. Yes, it's a good base, but we got that fade out start, really the origin of Y cross. but the knife concept is going to be our through, our dover, and then the running back after the pass protection checking into that backside outlet 3x3 outside the tackle. Now we see this concept again on the right side, more of an 11 personnel adaptation, different players, same concept. We've got the F on the go this time, the Z running the through route, but outside of that, essentially the same. Next, we've got spoon. So you'll notice through these first couple that they mirror kitchen utensils. That's kind of the category of nomenclature that they've gone for. We've got knife, spoon, and we'll look at fork after this. So two differences here with our spoon concept. We've still got our Tony on the front side with our go and the Tony route. We have Y spoon. So Y is the tagged route. He's the one running the cross. So here we have some answers for the problem that we just talked about with the pass protection. Now, if the quarterback gets a free runner backside, we have an answer with somebody replacing that space. This is an under route. A lot of people call it a fin, a 5-yard in. But because he's going to be so shallow now, instead of the running back checking up 3x3 outside the tackle here, where they're going to essentially be in the same space, now he's going to check that pass protection and swing out behind the line of scrimmage. And as I just mentioned, lastly in this kitchen utensil category, we have fork. So we're getting back to our through route and Dover route combination, but instead of that running back coming out of the backfield, this is actually a trips version, a 3x1 version. We're going to get what they call a rub return from the number 2 receiver. So a rub is a route that they run, and then return tells them to whip it back out into the backside flat, and we still get that backside high-low after the crosser. So on knife, the high-low was we had the Dover, and then we had the running back on the outlet, 3x3 outside the tackle. On spoon, we had the under. Yes, that's only a 5-yard route, but the running back checking wide at the backfield, getting some depth. There's still some space here for kind of a mini version of a high-low. And then now with fork, we've got our high-low between the Dover and the rub return. Now things are a little bit different on the front side here. We have a scout route, which is similar to kind of an option to run a 10-yard curl out or a fade if we're getting cloud coverage. But I still have a little bit of an issue with the pass protection here. Now we're running 2-jet, so the offensive line is going to be sliding left away from the call. 2 is an even number, so the play side's on the right. Sliding away from the call puts them left. And the running back is checking out to the flat with the option to kind of hitch it up in the middle if he's open. It's not my favorite way to design pass plays with our 2 receivers on where the quarterback's going to be looking, kind of not really in the progression outside of the alert for the scout route. The main issue that I would have here is the third read in the progression is in the left side flat. I would consider the backside flat. And our outlet pass for if we get stuck, none of our 3 come open. The guy we're supposed to ditch it to, our check down, he's all the way in the other flat. So the quarterback's looking over the middle of the field for his through route as the first route in the progression. Then progressing to our backside high-low concept. If neither of them come open, now the quarterback has to turn all the way back to the other side of the field to hope that his check down's open. But the other reason that I'm not a huge fan of this is any linebacker in here that's not blitzing, whether it's an inside linebacker or maybe it's a 3-4 outside linebacker, they probably don't worry too much about this scout route. Maybe one of them sinks to cover this through route, but that should mainly be handled by safeties. So who's to say that even our outlet's not covered right here? What I primarily see this version for is as a man-beating option with the rub return. Going to be really hard to cover in man coverage, but overall not my favorite design in this version of a pro-style Y-cross. I do like this version on the right a little bit better with stool. So stool is one of their versions of what some kind of call a circus route or a corner route from the outside number 1 receiver, where he's going to break in and then run kind of a version of a corner. They've got a bench right here, so it's a little more rounded and a little more flat than a corner, but it's kind of a similar idea. But same pass protection issues. What I would do actually is have the running back just go straight to the flat, make this a play side high-low out of a 5-man protection, and then you can really read it. You've got your play side high-low as your first part of the progression, then you progress to the middle of the field with your crossers, and then your backside high-low if nothing comes open after that. Yes, you get some issues with a 5-man protection, but I think those issues have better answers than the third read in the progression and the outlet pass being on completely opposite ends of the field. Next, we're going to look at a few different play action variations, and this is where we really get that high cross route. So the through route, remember that we talked about earlier, is not a direct copy of the Y cross. I consider it to be like that because I don't necessarily know that there's a need to teach both of them, especially at the high school level. But this is where we're actually going to see the true crossing route. They call this the high cross, not a through route. And you can see the coaching point here. That's really kind of a classic coaching point, is that you want to be 18 to 22 yards between the numbers and the hash. So the way that I kind of interpret that is your angle, you need to be crossing the hash at 18, and then when you get to the numbers, be at 22 yards is really the angle that you should be on. Now for high school, that's a little bit deep, but remember these are pro-style playbooks. This is the 2014 Redskins. Sean McVay was the offensive coordinator, and this comes off of wide zone action, outside zone action to the right. Now why they don't have it as a bootleg here, I'm not sure, especially with your entire progression being over here on the left side away from the run action. But the way this diagram is set up is it really shows the quarterback settling up in the pocket and making this throw across the field. So what we'll see with these different play action variations is really what most consider like a Yankee concept, where we've got some sort of route on the front side. A lot of times that's going to be a post with the crosser coming underneath. And the goal is that against cover 3, we're going to have a corner with outside leverage and a free safety with inside leverage. And it's really hard to communicate passing these two routes off that far down the field. So a lot of times a corner is going to be kind of chasing this wide and go. This cross is going to come underneath it, but because we have that wide and go threatening deeper, the free safety is also going to follow that, really leaving this high cross open, again, 18 to 22 yards down the field for a pretty easy explosive pass. Now, variations of this concepts are one of the ones that Sean McVay really killed the classic Seattle cover 3 defense with, and I really attribute the downfall of that defense to the rise of this offense, partially because of concepts like this. Now, what's also really important here is the slam flat from the Z. So he's going to make sure that that defensive end can't chase down the quarterback and then get into the flat. And what that does is it should really hold the second level, especially any outside linebackers down, to keep from being able to sink underneath the cross, making sure that we're really essentially 2-on-2 high. But if he does sink, it does give the quarterback somewhere else to go with the ball. And if they're all 3 covered, then we've got the running back checking through 5 yards over the ball as the outlet pass. All right, 2015 Falcons playbook. These are some more play action passes. They can be seen in other playbooks too. As far as the names of these plays go, a lot of them have to do with fire. So we've got Rider here. In another variation of this, they have Ghost Rider. And then we're going to look at Burner and Blazer. So burn and blaze, rider, ghost rider, a lot of ideas of fire here, and that's really how they've categorized their Yankee concepts. So rider at face value looks really similar to the play action pass that we just looked at. The biggest difference here is that we've got a read takeoff from the play side receiver instead of that wide and go. Now read is another play action pass for them. It's essentially like a seam, but you can see the little diagram, the squiggles right here. That's going to say to kind of hitch up just a little bit, hesitate, and then take off again. So we can hopefully cause this corner or a safety to have a little bit of indecision with this hesitation right here. The cross coming from the backside, cause a little bit of confusion, and then take the top off of them. Again, another Yankee concept. And what I really consider to be Yankee concepts are high-lows on defensive backs in the deeper parts of the field. So past that 10, 15, 20-yard mark. Forcing them to communicate. Are we going to take the takeoff? Who's going to take the high cross coming underneath? And then we know we don't have underneath help because we have the fullback checking out into the flat after a really hard run fake here. So it's really just these defensive backs 9 times out of 10. And this can be a really, really hard play to defend. Next up, we've got Blazer, and this is essentially what we looked at with the first one. You can see the coaching point here. We want to hit the numbers and then work back to the middle of the field slightly. So a little bit more nuanced than just a wide and go, but very similar. And then off of this run action, we actually have the tight end in the progression to a degree, as well as the outlet pass. If you look at the last couple, the Y has really just been in to block. No chance of him to get the ball, increasing the integrity of the run fake, but limiting your eligibles a little bit. So here we've got the run fake going to the left with the fullback blocking to the right. This is off of inside zone with an insert to the backside linebacker. Quarterback not booting out, but settling up after kind of a boot fake. And then like the rest of them, we're essentially reading it from high to low. 1, to 2 to 3 in the flat. And then we have our outlet. This is a check slow, so really to that 3x3 outside the tackle here, whereas others we've seen it over the ball from the running back, but he's the outlet pass either way. Next play action is burner, and the difference here is that we have the pylon route. So essentially what all these have is what are we getting from this number one receiver opposite the high cross. We've seen the wide and go, we've seen the read takeoff, we've seen the blazer, and now we have the pylon. So he's essentially breaking to the front side pylon. Another version of a Yankee concept. Let's say our corner and our safety here, maybe they've taken pretty well to the corner needing to drop off on the high cross. Well, now we've got the pylon, instead of running straight like on a read takeoff or a wide and go where he's working back towards the safety, now he's working away from the safety. So if this corner falls off to take the high cross, now the safety doesn't have leverage on the X receiver. Still have our flat coming out of the backfield. Now we're back to having that check through route by the running back over the ball, and our Y is still blocking backside. I would consider letting him late release out into the flat after 3 or 4 seconds if the quarterback still has the ball, just kind of as an extra security blanket. But having him block does increase the integrity of the run fake, especially for, let's say, this strong safety here. He sees the number 2 receiver block. If we're thinking quarters cover 4, then he's generally going to need to fit in the run scheme to kind of even out the numbers. Now with the Y being the backside of the run and then the high cross coming across his face, maybe that's not necessarily the case, but it is definitely something to think about when considering play action high cross. Now, all of those play action variations were from 2-back runs. This is something that you can do if you've got an extra eligible because you're going from 1 back. All of those that we looked at, we had our Yankee on the front side. We had this one's a wide and go. We had our high cross, and then we had our check flat with our check over from the running back. But if you only have 1 back in the backfield, you've got an extra eligible. And what the Dolphins did in their playbook is turn it into a corner post. And I really like this combination because it really messes with this safety if we're thinking about a 2-high defense. So we've talked plenty about the Yankee concept on the front side, the check flat coming to the play side flat to hold that outside linebacker. But what we get with this corner post here is the number 1 receiver breaking away from the safety, the number 2 receiver kind of working across his face. With the run action going to the left, safety's probably going to end up drifting to the left naturally. A corner from this condensed split, a 5-yard split, is going to be aligned outside. So we get the corner stem. So the corner should stay outside. And when you break back to the middle of the field, the corner should be outside. Hopefully this safety is gone. I think that's probably why it's an alert. But if that corner does have outside leverage on the corner post, if this safety does drift to the middle or rotate to the high cross, then this is a touchdown pass on the backside of our Yankee concept play action Y cross, high cross. Now looking at a few more drop back versions here, we have branch shade. Now branch is their primary call for a deeper fade out on the front side. You can see we've got X branch. The X is the one running the branch here. This is going to be motion to empty or full empty if you look over on the right, but it's the same kind of concept. Air raid, normally this is going to be like a 3 to 5 yard speed out. Here they just run an 8 yard square out, but that's their branch concept. Again, classic combination on the front side of Y cross, or what I call high cross, because as we see even in these diagrams, it's not necessarily the Y always on the cross. Again, we've got a through route, not necessarily the high cross, but for lower levels, I would really run it the same. With shade, we don't have the big Dover on the backside. We're back to that under, that fin route, but we also get a shallow cross coming from the Y. So I think that this combination especially is super cool because you get 2 high lows in one play. We've got classic middle field open, fade out, high low on the front side. We have our through and shallow cross giving us a high low on the interior. And then we have the backside under route, which could kind of be considered a check down. Most corners aren't going to be playing down low and inside of this under route, so it should be a completion. It's a good hot answer for pressure on the backside. But for having the 2 high lows and the backside under route, one of the issues that we can get with this is that it is empty, and you're going to need to make sure we've got time to get it off. But there are some good hot answers in place. So we've got the branch here as our first hot answer. If we're getting any extra edge pressure on the left side, the branch really replaces that. If we get any interior pressure from the linebacker level, we've got the shallow cross coming right behind them. And then if we get any edge pressure on the backside, we have the under route replacing those. Next version that we have here is co-shade. And co is shorthand for choice out. So it's H-co, the H is on the choice out. And so this is going to mimic choice action. So the choice route, the running back can either break to the flat, can hitch up, or can work inside, or work more flat out, straight to the flat if it's a hot answer. But co takes the choice away. It's saying, I want you to run like you're running the choice route, but you don't actually have the option to do anything except break out or flatten out immediately if we're getting some edge pressure off the play side here. And obviously we don't want the running back to have that option because he's going to run right into our shallow cross from the shade concept coming from the backside. So co, we have kind of two different variations of it. From an extended formation, normal width, the X receiver here, he's going to have a comeback. But if we look on the right, a condensed formation, it's going to convert to a corner. So we're really attacking that same space, still getting that same play side high-low that we just talked about, but this time it doesn't have to be from empty. Different teams play empty different ways. At the high school level, a lot of times it's just a straight check to cover zero. So if you want to get that play side high-low, that version of a fade out, this would be kind of a way to do it without having to get into empty. Still have our same hot answers. If we get extra play side pressure, we've got the H on the choice out. That's what this dash right here is for this 1 yard flat route. He's working out, reading the defense. If he sees a corner or outside linebacker blitz, he can flatten it out right away and expect the ball. Still got the shallow coming across for any interior pressure, and the Z coming on the fin route backside if we get any outside pressure on the backside. This is the 2019 Packers and what they call shade. You'll notice right away it's a different concept. We don't have the number 2 receiver on the shallow. We have double fin routes backside, but they're calling it the same thing. And we're kind of getting back to some of those issues we talked about earlier. We've got 3 jet here. So the line sliding to the right. We have an alert and an outlet on the play side away from the slide. We've got the through route I consider to be similar to the high cross enough to call these Y cross concepts. Our double fin routes backside, but our third read and our outlet are on opposite sides of the field. Also, if the quarterback's hot, it's going to come from the left side here away from the offensive line slide, and all of his hot answers are on the backside. Now, I do like here that they have the through route as a hot route. You can see that red circle here. They don't have it drawn, but I would still want to give him the option, especially because we don't have any play side answers. I'd really want to give him the option to snap it across if we see any interior pressure on the quarterback. But this is shadow, and it's what we just looked at with shade from the 49ers playbook. The exact same play. This is co-shadow. We have our choice out concept on the front side. We have our through route, our high cross with the shallow coming underneath it, and then that 5 yard under, that fin route on the backside as well. So I find it really interesting that they didn't just call this concept shade and the concept we just looked at shadow, because this is the exact same shade concept that we looked at already. They gave that shade name to another design and called this something else. I just find that really interesting. Lastly, here we have some red zone variations. We have nail, knife, chop suey. So first, looking at nail, knife, and what nail is essentially a high-low on the backside end line and then the goal line, with our knife concept from the very beginning coming from the backside. So we've got our through route with our Dover, and then you have the backside check slow 3x3 outlet outside the backside tackle. Chop is kind of like fork that we talked about earlier, where we had the rub return, except now we're going to get a co-China. So it's supposed to look like choice out, and China is their term for whipping from the outside back in. So this is really the rub return flipped. So again, the rub return kind of faked in and whipped back outside. This co-China is working outside and whipping back in. So really good from a bunch set right here. We're going to get the Y motioning across. Still going to keep your 2-man condensed stack, but this is going to play on a lot of triangle coverages, match coverages, and man versions with the China route from the backfield to get somebody open. And lastly, here we have suey, kind of a play on the kitchen utensils plus China routes. We've got Asian food, chop suey, and as far as the kitchen utensils category went, suey is really a play on spoon. So spoon, remember, abandoned that Dover, that 15 to 20 yard dig for the 5 yard under that fin route. And because that fin route is so shallow, the outlet route couldn't be 3x3 outside the tackle on the check slow, so it changed to a check wide instead. Instead of a fin route, the F here, the number 1 receiver on the outside, is going to run the Co-China, same Co-China that the running back just ran on chop. But again, we've abandoned that 15 to 20 yard dig route for some more options underneath here on Suey. A high cross is one of my favorite concepts, and you don't have to just pair it with fade out on the front side. If you want to see some of the other concept pairings that I like to go along with that knife or fork or spoon concept on the backside, then be sure to check out my CoachTube course on adapting the Shanahan McVay offense to high school. And if you want access to these playbooks, sign up for my Substack in the link in the description down below. One of the other passing concepts that we've broken down so far is mesh. And if you want to take a look at that, click on the screen and watch this next video.